All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, one thing is for sure, and that is that the Houston Texans are guilty of taking advantage of their current status. And the reason why I say that is this because after the stellar rookie season, of their phenomenal quarterback CJ Stroud, Houston is making sure to load up on talent around him while the young man is still on the cheap on his rookie deal. Now, last month, we saw the Texans acquire running back Joe Mixon from the Cincinnati Bengals, a move to me that has really flown under the radar this offseason. While today, they picked up wide receiver Stefon Diggs from the Buffalo Bills. Now, the arrival of Diggs gives the Texans a legit number one receiver, as now there is a plethora of talent at the skill position around Stroud. You look at it, you got Joe Mixon at running back, you've got Dalton Schultz at tight end, and then you look at the wide receivers. You're bringing in Stefon Diggs, the veteran, Tank Dell, who's coming back from a knee injury. You also have Nico Collins and the veteran Robert Woods. And for me and my money, this was a smart move by the Texans for them to once again to take advantage of Stroud while he's on his rookie deal. He is the real deal. We saw him last year. He passed for more than 4,100 yards during the regular season, 23 touchdowns to just 5 picks as a rookie. And he helped this Houston Texans team win a playoff game. Now, the question is going to be, what does Diggs bring to Houston, as this is now the third team that he's going to be playing with in the NFL? One thing's for sure, he's going to be closer to his brother Trayvon, who's a cornerback for the Dallas Cowboys. Now they're in the same state. But for me, he's going to be another guy that is going to be a threat for this Texans offense. And honestly, when you look at all of the names, the answer is this, or the question is this rather, who do you double? Because we saw Tank Dell last year, and he has the speed, to blow the top off. All right. Then you got the veteran like Woods. You got a guy like Dalton Schultz, who is a matchup nightmare for opposing linebackers. And now you bring in a guy like Stefon Diggs, and when it's all said and done, you still got to worry about Joe Mixon not only as a runner, but also as Joe Mixon as a receiver coming out of that backfield. So I think this is an opportunity for Stefon Diggs to have a fresh start in the NFL. He started off with the Minnesota Vikings, of course, went to the Buffalo Bills, and now he's with the Houston Texans. But I say it like this: the writing was on the wall that Stefon Diggs' time in Buffalo was coming to an end. Honestly, I'm surprised that this didn't happen last offseason, because if you go back a couple of years to that playoff loss that the Bills had at home to the Cincinnati Bengals, we saw a frustrated and demonstrative Stephon Diggs on the sidelines. We saw the tweets last year from his brother about, Stephon Diggs' situation with Buffalo. And of course, it all came to a head, in my opinion, this year. Also, did not help that the Buffalo Bills were well over the salary cap heading into this offseason. I'm going to touch on that a little bit more in a brief moment. But at the end of the day, it's time for him to get a fresh start. And I think it's time for the Buffalo Bills to get a fresh start. And let's see how all parties involved will go forward. Now, again, that salary cap crunch number, you think about it. Jordan Poyer is no longer with the Bills. Mitch Morse, Gabe Davis left as a free agent. Tre'Davious White is no longer with the Bills as well. And this organization is now going to have to rebuild around quarterback Josh Allen. And I've said this before, when your quarterbacks count for so much money, it's one of those where, you know what, in the world of the National Football League, even with the increased salary cap, do I want to win or do I want to get paid? You can't have it both ways. And now we're seeing that cap crunch where the Buffalo Bills have been in contention for the last couple of years. They've come up short. And at the end of the day, the bill, no pun intended, has come due. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the Buffalo Bills, or will the Buffalo Bills be able to rebuild around Josh Allen? And I'll say it like this: Josh Allen's numbers as a starting quarterback in the National Football League pre Stefon Diggs were not that good. They were pedestrian like. But as soon as Stefon Diggs did get into the equation in Buffalo, you're talking about Josh Allen being a guy that finished in the top five of the MVP voting three times, including finishing second in 2020. So I really want to see how this new Buffalo Bills team looks. You still got talent at the tight end position with both Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. But the thing is like a lot has changed in the receiver room. Gabe Davis is gone. He's with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Curtis Samuel, what is he going to do now with the Buffalo Bills? He's probably going to be the go-to guy right now. But then, even with that said, I do expect the Bills to be active in the NFL draft, going after a wide receiver. We saw the Minnesota Vikings do this a couple of years ago. They moved on. They traded Stefon Diggs to the Buffalo Bills, and then they turned around and used the first round pick on Justin Jefferson. And of course, very quickly, Justin Jefferson has shown that he is one of the better wide receivers in the National Football League. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Bills do from there. But on the flip side, are the Texans a Super Bowl contender right now? And I'm going to say absolutely. Let's not gloss over the fact that this team also signed edge rusher Daniil Hunter this offseason. And you're talking about a defensive coach in D'Amico Ryans as Houston's head coach. And we saw him with his time with as the defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers, the way he was able to dial up pressure. We saw it last year for this Houston Texans team as his defense was able to dial up pressure. And that trend, in my opinion, is going to continue. Why? Because you're going to have to find a way to heat up those elite quarterbacks in the AFC if you're going to get to the Super Bowl. You look at it, they fell short against the Baltimore Ravens last year. And then again, you're going to have to get past Kansas City. If you're going to find a way to get out of the AFC, eventually you're going to have to clash with the Chiefs, and you're going to have to find a way to get to Patrick Mahomes. And if you cannot get to Patrick Mahomes, it doesn't amount to a hill of beans. So the Texans, I think, bringing in a guy like Daniil Hunter is big for that, as they're trying to take that next step as a franchise. I don't see CJ Stroud taking a huge step back and having a sophomore slump, so to speak, because this front office, credit to them, has put a lot of talent around him in the last couple of years to make him, to maximize his talent. And this is something that we haven't been saying a lot for that long with the Houston Texans, because it wasn't that long ago where they were looked at as one of the worst franchises in the National Football League. And very quickly, they have turned it around, and they have the people there in that city thinking about Super Bowl. But I think the Texans are in that mix. You look at the top teams right now, in my opinion, in the AFC. Of course, you got the Chiefs. You still got the Baltimore Ravens. The Houston Texans are definitely in that mix. And then, you look at the AFC North with the likes of the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. Okay, as some of the top teams, in my opinion, in the AFC. And I'm also going to say this: moving on from Stefon Diggs, and of course, the Buffalo Bills are going to have to rebuild. This changes a lot in the AFC East. In my opinion, we've seen the New York Jets make some moves this offseason. I'll tell you like this: if the Jets cannot win the AFC East right now, they never will. You look at the AFC South, clearly the Texans have separated themselves from everybody else in that division, to the point that I think if they go out there and handle their business in 2024, they win that division running away. But things are looking up for this Houston Texans franchise, and I can't say it enough. We really weren't talking about the Joe Mixon move until today, and it's like, oh snap, you got Stefon Diggs and you got Joe Mixon. But for me, I felt like the signing initially when the Texans picked him up was something that flew under the radar. Why? Because everybody was talking about Saquon Barkley going to the Philadelphia Eagles, and of course, Derrick Henry going to the Baltimore Ravens. But nonetheless, I think Joe Mixon is going to do some big, fantastic things with the Houston Texans. And I think Stefon Diggs has a potential to do some things in Houston as well. I'll look at it like this. It's one of those where as long as Stephon doesn't come in there and try to be the guy and want to dominate with catches, because it's something where the ball is spread around for everybody in Houston, I think he has the opportunity to shine. Now, of course, his numbers have not been there in the postseason, but if you're the Houston Texans, there's plenty of talent to go around to get the job done. But nonetheless, this was a great move. In my opinion, by the Houston Texans. It does not cost you a draft pick this year. Everything is for 2025. And it's one of those where if you're the Texans, you know what? You're all in. You're locked in right now around CJ Stroud. They have built nicely around this young man. And just like that, now we're talking about the Houston Texans as Super Bowl contenders. This time last year, this definitely was not the case. But Stefon Diggs is now with the Houston Texans, and I really like their chances to be a force this year in the AFC. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.